Hi, this is Dan Beverley, leadership and performance coach and founder of the ThoughtSpark Performance Academy. And in this video, I'd like to share with you 6 uncommon performance habits of leadership that will help you to model a more conscious approach in the moments of challenge and uncertainty, will help you to deepen your connection with your people and your team, and will help you to really raise the standards in terms of engagement and communication, and to do so in ways that really amplify our results as a team and an organisation, but also earn you a reputation as a more conscious leader. And I'm calling these uncommon performance habits because they're a little different from the normal leadership guidance. Why have we decided to do that? Well, I'm going to guess that you've already done a great job at installing those core leadership principles and practices that you need to be successful at the level you're currently at. And now as you think about moving onwards and upwards, it becomes a question of amplifying those core skills with performance habits that complement and extend that solid foundation. So that's what I've tried to provide today. Now, before we work through these 6 habits, I'd like to say a quick word on how you might like to think about them, how we might like to come at them. And I invite you to see them as disciplines. So that is something that's to be practiced consistently, consciously, and over time, so that ultimately they become deeply embedded. Because whatever level we're at, whatever area of life or work we want to improve, and whatever our project, one of the most effective and most reliable ways to create a real shift in our performance is by installing performance habits that are behaviours that become just ingrained. Not something I now need to study or remember or switch on. It's just part of my natural DNA, and I get there through discipline. So as we step through these 6 leadership performance habits, please do be thinking, how might I use this? How might I incorporate it into my daily operation? And how might I make it part of my leadership DNA? And idea number 1 is to build the habit of creative listening. There really is no better way to lead than to model and inspire the excellence that you want from your team for your team. And we can start that process by taking everything you already know about active listening and upgrading it to something we'll call creative listening. Creative listening is the skill and the discipline of listening for the opportunity to create, whatever the circumstances. So even when a situation presents itself to you and your team to be something close to a problem or a drama or indeed a crisis, let's be the one who listens for the hidden opportunity to get us back to the vision, the goal and the objective, because that's what the team wants us to do and it's what the team needs us to do. So as you move into your day, your week, your coming month, really challenge yourself and your team with the question that given this, given these circumstances, given everything that we're up against, what do we want to create? So idea number 1 is to build the habit of creative listening. And idea number 2 is to live purposefully and to be on purpose. Now, living purposefully means slowing down to a one item at a time rhythm and really working on the high return activities only, where if we think of the 80-20 rule, the high return activities is that 20% of activity and effort that gives us 80% of the return. And if we can slow down enough into our day, we can get really clear on what the 80% of noise is that's distracting us and what we need to do to eradicate that. Most leaders are not in that space. Most leaders are rush, and it's all very hectic and unfocused and a little bit chaotic. I really don't want that for the experience of my team. As a leader, I want my team to come away from every exchange, every conversation with me, yes, feeling energized and focused, but in a kind of calm and relaxed manner, like, they've just taken 3 really long, deep breaths. And now they have a sort of clarity that makes the rest of the day just flow. It's easy because now they know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And you can really model how to do that in your leadership style, the leadership climate that you bring to every exchange, that you create in every meeting. So from here on in, I'd love you to run every team meeting, every one-to-one in this spirit. Help your team to see that no matter how high the stakes or how intense the pressure, we still only ever move things forward one item at a time, and that we're at our very best when we really relax into that. So idea number 2, live purposefully. That is to be on purpose. And idea number 3 is to consciously improve the quality of communication. Sublime communication skill, which includes self-communication, in fact it starts with self-communication, is an absolute number one priority in any role, in any industry, and in any kind of leadership capacity. It's absolutely essential to our success. So I want to be consciously working on that day in and day out. And so my first and perhaps only priority to achieve that goal is to take full responsibility for every communication I play a part in. Whether I'm the sender or the receiver, the leader or the team member, the expert or the novice, I play a fundamental role in the quality of the communication we share together. And the outcome of that exchange is direct feedback that I can use, but only if I'm willing to take full responsibility. Most people are not willing to do that. And if they're in a communication that perhaps breaks down, maybe the other person becomes very frustrated or upset, or there's a lot of emotional charge, there's a lot of attack, there's a lot of resistance, our default space to go to is to attack back and to resist. But if I take full responsibility, I might just take a moment and not say, well, this is all their stuff and this is their problem, but actually say, what have I done? What have I communicated? How have I communicated to raise this threat in another person? So that's an example of taking full responsibility for the outcome in any communication. And what I'd love you to do as you move into your day is to think, what part have I played in this communication outcome that I'm currently getting? So idea number 3, to consciously improve the quality of communication. Idea number 4 is to challenge fear, but to do that by strengthening goals and prioritizing action. Fear for me is one of the most interesting topics out there. I love to reflect on it, think about it, work with it, really get into what's happening, and not least because of the many ways that it can really show up in our working day, and indeed the extraordinary results that we might achieve in its absence. Now, as a leader, I wouldn't suggest that we encourage our teams to examine their fears, because really that's just going to push them into a more fearful state. But what I might suggest is that as a leader, I want to use fear and resistance as a silent indicator to me that we as a team are just not strongly enough on our agenda and that we're simply not in enough action. And then from there, my coaching challenge for you is that as a leader to notice any fear at play, but then use that as your trigger to strengthen the goal for your team and to prioritize actionable action. So idea number 4, challenge the fear by strengthening goals and prioritizing action. And idea number 5 is to learn to love resistance. One of the most impactful blockers to progress for our organization, our team, and indeed ourselves is resistance. Resistance in ourselves, but also resistance from others, from other leaders, other departments, external partners and stakeholders, customers, clients, collaborators. The list is nearly endless for the people that we want to work with, and resistance is always there. And what do we do in the face of that resistance? Well, we resist it. We reassert our position, we dig our heels in, we get into the trenches and we resist the resistance. But conscious leadership takes quite a different approach and views resistance as something to be welcomed, something that we can really use and work with, something which gives us direct feedback on where agreement is to be found, and something that really fuels our objective rather than starves it. So my coaching challenge for you today is that the next time you meet with resistance, don't challenge it as we would by default, but really work with it, start to play with it. Because if I can make that shift, every exchange from here on in becomes a real joy. It becomes a moment of almost limitless opportunity. Because what I was previously calling rejection, which is one of those core human fears, has simply and usefully become information that now moves me closer to my goal. And that's a habit I would wish for you to be able to really model for your team. So idea number 5, learn to love resistance. And idea number 6 is to learn to distinguish between social self and our professional self. Work is a social environment. It cannot not be. And to help me be successful in that environment, one of the most useful distinctions I can hold in my mind is that between my social self and my professional self. Now, my social self, he's interested in people pleasing. My social self is interested in being liked. My social self wants us all just to get along. but my professional self knows that there are other things that come first. And that's not to say my professional self isn't friendly or great to work with or drops any kind of likability in favour of doing the job, but it's far more accomplished at striking the right balance. So for any especially new leader who might be struggling to strike the right balance of professionalism, I would suggest that we make use of the thought social self versus professional self, and to challenge ourselves in the moment. Who am I being right now? My social self or my professional self? And what's most appropriate for the situation in which I find myself? So there are 6 performance habits for more conscious leadership: creative listening, living with and on purpose, consciously improving the quality of our communications, challenging fear by strengthening goals and prioritising action, working with our resistance, and making that distinction between social self and professional self. And I hope that when you put these into practice, they will help you to really model a new approach to challenge and uncertainty, to deepen your key relationships, and to raise those standards of engagement and communication for you, for your people, your team, and your organisation. And from here, I really invite you to challenge yourself to be a more conscious leader and to take with you into your day the thought, if I were to bring a little more consciousness to this moment, I would. And finish that thought, and from there follow your good instincts. So I hope you found some of that useful today. Before you go, if I could ask you to do me a small favour and just leave a comment below sharing your #1 insight from today's video. It'll help embed the learning for you, it'll highlight insights for others that maybe they had missed, and it's also great feedback for me as I strive to improve. But for now, my name's Dan Beverley. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.